Hey everybody, so I'm sitting in the airport and my plane got delayed to get home and I just had to make this video for you guys. So I'm watching the Joe Rogan podcast in case you have not caught it. Anyway, I was watching the Joe Rogan podcast where he interviewed Donald J. Trump. I want to point out some things that took me a second to truly understand about our history. First off, do you guys realize before Trump won in 2016 that he had never been throughout the entirety of the White House? Why am I saying that? Since 9/11, it's very hard to get any kind of tour of the White House. And prior to 9/11, you could tour it if you let them know ahead of time. They would do a background check on your family, give you a special pass, sign you up for a day to come, and you could go tour the White House. I've done it as a child with my mom and dad. Beautiful, but you don't get to tour the whole thing. In fact, if you're not a lifelong politician, chances are you have never been to every room in the White House. So that stood out to me, that he was so excited to be able to go see like the Lincoln bedroom, because he'd heard about it, but he'd never been there. Why? Because in all of America's history, only 5 prior presidents had never been elected to any public office prior to becoming president. Only 5. Those are Zachary Taylor, who ran as an independent, Ulysses Grant, who ran as a Republican, Herbert Hoover ran as a Republican, Eisenhower ran as a Republican, and Trump ran as a Republican but sees himself as an independent. So you've got somebody who has never been throughout the White House. As much money as people claim he has, as much power as they claim he has, as much, oh, he's a puppet. He's the, what do they call that? You guys know what I'm talking about. The 33, the Messianic. Oh, he's been prepped for this his whole life. Really? Really? Because he'd never been on a real tour of the White House, like what people that live there or presidential soon-to-be people have done, like walking through the entirety of the White House. He'd never done that. Something else I noticed was the way that he was talking about the little things, like the pictures of past gone presidents and their family and their deceased children and the Civil War. And he was talking about American history with so much awe and love and respect and reverence. And I'm listening to him talk and I'm like, I wish more people saw him like this instead of what they think of the angry orange man. You know what I mean? I know you guys know what I mean. But I just thought I'd share that because I thought it was really cool. He made history being one of 5 presidents out of all of America's history that did not have a political career prior to becoming president. Why does that even matter? Because he is the president of the people. He was not raised to be president. He was not groomed from childhood to be president. He has not spent the last 20 years learning the language, the mannerisms, or the games. Now, he's a businessman in New York, so, you know, he knows some of the game. But he still was human. You look at our politicians nowadays, the majority of them are uber rich. They consider themselves an elitist class. They don't live by the same rules that they pass for you and I. 1733 point mark in that he makes a comment, Trump does, and he says there's never been a thing such as this. I went back and double checked the 5 presidents that had never had political backgrounds. You guys know the other 4 were all military and most of them generals. What? Oh, he is correct. He's the only president in American history that was not in the military or a politician prior to becoming president. So 8% of our past presidents were generals, 92% were political their entire life. Now, Trump was a Democrat until the 90s, and basically he talks a little bit on the Joe Rogan podcast about the 2-party system and why you're never gonna have somebody that's an independent or any of those other parties succeed into the presidency, because if they do, they don't have Congress. Congress is Republicans and Democrats. So you get a president in there that's like an independent and nothing's getting done, guys, because you have to understand how our government runs. and Congress, Senate, President, they all have to work together pretty much. So why don't we have more people in places of power that don't have political backgrounds? Because that seems to be a question for most of us. Like, we feel like the people sitting in Washington, D.C. don't understand what we, the little people, the average day people, what we have to go through. Like, when was the last time they were concerned about the food cost? When was the last time they couldn't travel because of the lockdowns? Like, right, you see what I'm saying? Like, they're doing whatever they want to. The problem is, and he talks about this too, is that vetting someone that wasn't a career politician is really hard to do, because politicians are under the eye of the public for so much. So they're kind of vetted over and over and over again. It's real hard for them to hide things for any period of time. The problem, I think, is that for politicians nowadays, I have to agree with Joe Rogan. He said, so basically, politics is a place for non-exceptional people to go and thrive. Well, go and become rich, Joe. That's what they're doing. Because when you look at the politicians we have right now, you look at how their spouses are multimillionaires, and then how they go into politics, and some of their salaries are $20,000, $80,000. You get, when you look at their bank account, they have $10 million. How did you get $10 million in the life as a lifelong politician? Like, kickbacks and insider trading, and yeah, I mean, it's rampant. So DC is a cesspool on the streets. And in DC, if you've ever been there, I was there in the 80s and the 90s, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it was a cesspool then. I cannot imagine what it probably looks like today. But so Trump goes on, he talks about how he is just a businessman. He'd been to Washington, D.C. a total of 17 times and had never stayed over. So I'm assuming that means spent the night. So you go in, as president, you go into the White House, you have no ties to any politics. You have no group of people to back you up. So as I'm hearing his story, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about how, like, when you watch the DNC convention, every lifelong politician, every star, singer, woohoo, that none of those people have anything in common with you and I. They get up and they just badmouth him, and badmouth his politics, and badmouth his, but all of our lives were safer, all of our lives were better, all of us were paying less for everything, all of us were much happier. And all they could talk about, the entire DNC, was how Trump did everything wrong. But it's funny, because he had no political background. He said that, when he got there, he was just like, okay, wow, like, I've got to figure all this out, because I have no training in this. Like, I have to learn quick, which tells you how remarkable he really is. Was he perfect? No, because somebody else put, but he was the father of the vaccine, Samantha. Y'all know how many vaccines have been created in this country under different presidents? I mean, get over yourself. He also got on national TV and told people to take ivermectin, and when he did, the media and people on social media tore him up. I remember that. So you've got even Christians and Republicans screaming for a vaccine. Now, some of y'all might not be in that group, but I bet some of you, if you'll be honest with yourself, you were one of those people sitting at home in the beginning, scared to death, going, we need a vaccine, we need a vaccine, we need a vaccine. I mean, just be real with it. You were. Now, if that's not you, don't comment. It's not me, Samantha. I don't have time to read all those comments, you guys. So people were pushing for a vaccine. This is not a man that had ever dealt with how dirty they are and how the EPA and the FDA is bought and paid for, but he knows now. So you can't hold one funky vaccine over his head, because here's my thing, nobody held you down and jabbed you with it. You still had the choice not to take it. Now, I know a lot of people can say, no, we didn't. My kid's in the military, they had to take it. My son's in the military, I've been with him all week. Do you guys know that he had to go stand before a panel in the Army because he refused to take it? He didn't know if he was going to get dishonorably discharged or thrown in the brig. But he walked in with a packet from an attorney, a constitutional attorney, for all the reasons they could not force him to take it. He went up there, he shared his case, he spoke for 30 minutes, he sat down, they shipped him back home, never said another word to him. He never took it. One of the very few in any of the armed forces that is never made to take it. So again, you can't blame him for that. You had a choice to take it or not take it. It was a crappy vaccine. I mean, I don't understand people. Like, you want to hold that one thing, like that's the one thing that you're going to, like, you know, it's my hill to die on, this vaccine. But he also told you to take ivermectin and a Z-Pack. Like, for real. I watched that the other day. I think I played that clip in one of my videos. So he was always, I mean, yeah, he was backing the vaccine because over 60% of the American population was screaming for it. So again, that's why America's not a democracy, because mob rule and dumb stuff like this thing comes out that it was not so great. But you're blaming somebody for something that was required of them as president of the United States. So I want you to think that through next time that's your argument for not liking him. Because, and then this nonsense with Christians, right? He's not a Christian. He loves the country. I mean, your other choice is Harris. Or you really want to have that discussion? I mean, do we have to have that discussion at this point? Especially on this channel. I would think not. But all I'm going to say is, if you like him, or you don't like him, take the time out to go watch that unedited 3 hours. 3 hours. Can you imagine Harris having to sit down with an unscripted, unedited 3-hour conversation with somebody that's going to hardball her? She couldn't do it. Biden couldn't have done it. Any lifelong politician flat could not do it. But see, Trump's a businessman. That's why you see people in all the comments on all my videos, on any video, going, the world is praying he gets back in, because he would be the one world leader who is not born and raised to that position. So all these people saying, oh, he's messianic and he's been chosen since birth, he's just another puppet. You know what? It's like Satan's talking through your mouth. You're so deluded. You know in the Bible where it says the wise will really be stupid? That's how I feel when people bring that up. Like, that's such a dumb thing. It was never in the paperwork. He caught them by surprise. He won because they couldn't get the hate up fast enough to cock blocking. That's the truth. That's what that was. And then he ran for president, and then we all know what happened with 2020. We all know. And if we are not careful and diligent, voting early, making sure that it's the correct, when you turn your vote in, recording, and here's my thing, folks, you can't get on here and say, oh, this is happening. You have to have proof. And proof is video evidence, paper evidence, eyewitnesses, but in this day and age, it's really video proof. So if you see something, say something, but record it and make sure it gets turned into the right officials in your community, and then put it on social media. I mean, like, don't play that game with them, because that's how rumors get started. Because I see the comments. I am mainly my own moderator. So I see everybody's comments. Well, in this place, but where's the proof of that happening? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not good enough just to say it did happen. There needs to be proof that it did happen. So make sure that you get that. Because I always tell everybody, I don't care about it unless I could take what you give me and go to a judge and sit on the stand with 12 of my peers hearing the evidence, and they will agree with me that that is evidence. Otherwise, if it doesn't hold up in court, then it's just rumor. It's based on feelings, not on facts. And that's very important in this day and age, especially when everything can be faked so easy, okay? So I love you guys. Hopefully they're going to let us get on the plane soon. I'm gonna get to head home, tired. I'm ready for a Louisiana hot bath because the water's soft, and in Florida, it was hard. Love you guys so much. Oh, I spoke to Lisa, for the ones of you that are praying for her. She is doing much better. She's in rehab, like for physical rehab, for a couple weeks. So I'll probably be going to Atlanta in a couple weeks to sit with her when they send her home. If you would like to support our channel and what we do here with Truth, it's always in the top of comments. And if you want the newsletter, it comes out twice a month. 6 months is $30. Make sure you send it to one of our payments down below, and you write newsletter in the memo and you put your email there. Okay, because that's how it's going to come to you. I love you guys so much. Have a great night.